So this is one name for the song is Nityananda Nishtha, or fixity at the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Another name, the name that this book is giving is Manashiksha, or teachings to the mind. So I guess it can be both, instructing the mind to take shelter of Lord Nityananda. It's on page 101 in your books. So maybe we could take turns reading the translation first, just so that we can get an idea of what the bhajan is saying, so that we can be conscious of that when we sing it. My book actually doesn't have the translation, it just has the purport. So, actually, there we go. Okay. The lotus feet of Lord Nityananda are a shelter where one will get the soothing moonlight, not only of one, but of millions of moons. If the world wants to have real peace, it should take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Unless one takes shelter under the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, it will be very difficult for him to approach Radha Krishna. If one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Radha Krishna, he must firmly catch hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Anyone who has not established, this is verse 2, anyone who has not established his relationship with Nityananda Prabhu is understood to have spoiled his valuable human birth. Such a human being is actually an uncontrollable animal. Because he never uttered the holy name of Nityananda, he has become merged into so-called material happiness. What can his useless education and family tradition do to help him? Being maddened after, verse 3, being maddened after false prestige and identification with the body, one is thinking, oh, what is Nityananda? What can he do for me? I don't care. The result is that he's accepting something false to be truth. If you actually want to approach the association of Radha Krishna, you must first achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda. When he is merciful toward you, then you will be able to approach Radha Krishna. Therefore, you should firmly grasp the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. The lotus feet, verse 4, the lotus feet of Nityananda are not an illusion, they are a fact. One who engages in the transcendental loving service of Nityananda is also transcendental. Always try to catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. This Narottam Das is very unhappy. Therefore, I am praying to Lord Nityananda to make me happy. My dear Lord, please keep me close to your lotus feet. Okay, now we can sing it together. Nitai pada kamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Je Chaya Jagat Jurai Hino Nitai Bina Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Nai Heno Nitai Bine Bhai Radha Krishna Paite Nai Dridha Kori Dharanitar Pai Dridha Kori Dharanitar Pai সম্বন্ধ নাহি যার বৃথা জন্ম গেল তার সে সম্বন্ধ নাহি যার বৃথা জন্ম গেল তার সে পশু বড় দুরাচার সে পশু বড় দুরাচার নিতাই না বলিল মুখে মজিল সংসার দুঃসুখে নিতাই না বলিল মুখে মজিল সংসার সুখে বিদ্যাকুলে কি করিবে তার বিদ্যাকুলে কি করিবে তারা অহংকারে মতে হইয়া নিতাই পদ পাশরিয়া অহংকারে মত হইয়া নিতাই পদ পাশরিয়া অসতেরে শত করি মানি অসতেরে শত করি মানি নিতাইয়ের করুণা হবে ব্রজে রাধা কৃষ্ণ পাবে নিতাইয়ের করুণা হবে ব্রজে রাধা কৃষ্ণ পাবে ধরণিতায় চরণ দুখানি নিতাইয়ের চরণ শত তাহার সেবক নেতা নিতাইয়ের চরণ শত Tahar Shevaka Nitya. Nitai pada shoda karo asha. Nitai pada shoda karo asha. Narottama bara dukhi, Nitai more kara sukhi. Narottama bara dukhi, Nitai more kara sukhi. Gauranga charanera pasha. Gauranga charanera pasha. Nitai pada kamala koti chandra shushitala. Jai chayai jagata jurai. Jai chayai jagata jurai. Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. So now we'll read Srila Prabhupada's purport, which is in your book as well. No, I have it here. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is a very nice song sung by Narottam Das Thakur. He advises that Nitai Pada, the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, Kamala means lotus and Pada means feet, are a shelter where one will get the soothing moonlight not only of one, but of millions of moons. We can just imagine the aggregate total value of the soothing shine of millions of moons. In this material world, Jagat, which is progressing toward hell, there is always a blazing fire, and everyone is struggling hard without finding peace. Therefore, if the world wants to have real peace, it should take shelter under the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, which are cooling like the shining of a million moons. Juraya means relief. If one actually wants relief from the struggle of existence and actually wants to extinguish the blazing fire of material pangs, Narottam Das Thakur advises, please take shelter of Lord Nityananda. What will be the result of accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda? He says, Heno Nitai Bine Bhai. Unless one takes shelter under the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, Radha Krishna Paitenai. It will be very difficult for him to approach Radha Krishna. The aim of this Krishna consciousness movement is to enable us to approach Radha Krishna and associate with the Supreme Lord in his sublime pleasure dance. Narottam Das Thakur advises that if one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Radha Krishna, he must accept the shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Then, he says, Sheshamundanahi. Shambandha means connection or contact. Anyone who has not contacted a relationship with Nityananda is understood to have spoiled his human birth. In another song also, Narottam Das says, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Goainu. One who does not approach Radha Krishna through a relationship with Nityananda has uselessly spoiled his life. Britha means useless, Janma means life, Dar means his, and Sambandha means relationship. Anyone who does not make a relationship with Nityananda is simply spoiling the boon of his human form of life. Why is he spoiling it? She Pashu Boro Durachar. She means that, Pashu means animal, and Durachar means misbehaved, or the most misbehaved. Without elevation to Krishna consciousness, through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, life is simply spoiled in the animal propensities of sense gratification. Narottam Das says that ordinary animals can be tamed, but when a human being is animalistic, having only animal propensities, he is most horrible, for he cannot be tamed. Ordinary cats and dogs, or even a tiger, can be tamed. But when a human being goes out of his way and neglects to take to the human activity of Krishna consciousness, his higher intelligence will simply be misused for animal propensities, and it is very difficult to tame him. The enactment of state laws cannot make a thief an honest man, because his heart is polluted. He cannot be tamed. Every man sees that a person who commits a criminal offense is punished by the government, and also in scriptural injunctions, punishment in hell is mentioned. But despite hearing from scripture and seeing the action of the state laws, the demoniac cannot be tamed. What are they doing? Nitai na bolilo mukhe. Since they do not know who Nityananda is, they never say the names of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. Majilo shangshara shukhe. Majilo means becomes absorbed. They become absorbed in so-called material enjoyment. They don't care for who Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are, and therefore they go deep down into material existence. Vidya kuleki koribe tar. If one has no connection with Nityananda, and if he does not come to Krishna consciousness, his vidya, or his so-called education, and kula, birth in a higher family or a great nation, will not protect him. Regardless of whether one is born into a very big family or nation, or has a very advanced academic education, at the time of death, nature's law will act, and his work will be finished. And he will get another body according to that work. Why are these human animals acting in this way? Ahankare matte hoya, nitai pada pasuriya. They have become maddened by a false concept of bodily life, and thus they have forgotten their eternal relationship with Nityananda. Asatyare satya korimani. Such forgetful persons accept the illusory energy as factual. Asatyare refers to that which is not a fact. In other words, maya. Maya means that which has no existence, but is a temporary illusion only. Persons who have no contact with Nityananda accept this illusory body as factual. Narottam Das Thakur then says, Nitayar Kuruna Habe Braje Radha Krishna Pabe. If you actually want to approach the association of Radha Krishna, you must achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda first. When he is merciful toward you, then you will be able to approach Radha Krishna. Dharo Nitai Charan Dukhani. Narottam Das advises that one firmly catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Then again he says, Nitai Charana Satya. One should not misunderstand and think that he has caught hold of Maya. And think that as he has caught hold of Maya, similarly the lotus feet may also be something like that Maya, or illusion. Therefore Narottam Das confirms, Nitai Charana Satya. The lotus feet of Nityananda are not illusion, they are a fact. Tahar Sevaka Nitya. And one who engages in the transcendental loving service of Nityananda is also transcendental. If one engages in the transcendental loving service of Nityananda in Krishna consciousness, he immediately achieves the transcendental position on the spiritual platform, which is eternal and blissful. Therefore he advises Nitai Pada Sada Koro Asha. Always try to catch the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. Narottama Boroduki. Narottam Das Thakur, the Acharya, is taking the position that he is very unhappy. Actually, he is representing ourselves. He says, My dear Lord, I am very unhappy. Nitai more koro shuki. Therefore, I am praying to Lord Nityananda to make me happy. Rakho ranga charanir pash. Please keep me in a corner of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om ajnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. So, today is the glorious appearance day of Lord Nityananda Trayodashi. So I'll speak a little bit on Lord Nityananda. So Lord Nityananda, Rajendranandan Jay Shachishuta Hoilo She, Balaram Hoilo Nitai. So Nityananda, he is none other than Lord Balaram, coming down with Krishna, who came as Lord Chaitanya, in order to save the fallen conditioned souls in Kali Yuga. So in the Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. So in the Panchatattva, Lord Nityananda, he's Bhakta Swarup. Or in other words, he's Samashti Guru, the Guru Tattva. So he's the aggregate total of the Guru Shakti, so all gurus in this world. Vyashti Guru means the individual guru. There's Samashti Guru, who's the eternal Guru Tattva, and then Vyashti Guru is the individual manifestation of Guru. So the Vyashti Guru is his representative. And so he gives strength to, it's described that Krishna, he gives the living entity the sword of his instructions so that he can cut himself out of material existence. And Lord Balaram, Nityananda Prabhu, he gives strength to hold these instructions. So we can pray to Lord Nityananda for strength on this day, spiritual strength, to follow the instructions of Krishna and maintain purity. So he's Vishnu Tattva, he's one of the three Prabhus, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu. So on the left of the to the left of Lord Chaitanya on the Panchatattva is the Vishnu Tattvas, and then on the right is the Shakti Tattvas. So Gadadhar Pandit, he's Srimati Radharani, the Hladni Shakti. And Srivas Thakur, he's Narada Muni, so he is also Shakti, he's a devotee, pure devotee. So, yes, Nityananda is described, he's the second body of Lord Chaitanya. And like I said, he gives strength to hold the instructions of Krishna, of Lord Chaitanya. And therefore, it's described that, just like in this song, it says, Radha Krishna Paite Nai, without taking shelter of Lord Nityananda, one cannot achieve Radha Krishna. And in Kali Yuga, Radha Krishna means Lord Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radhe Krishna Nahe Anya. Lord Krishna Chaitanya, he's non-different. He's none other than Radha and Krishna. So this is demonstrated in one pastime, which is in the Adi Lila, the 5th chapter of the Adi Lila, the narration of Minaketana Ramdas. So Minaketana Ramdas was a great devotee of Lord Nityananda. I'm not sure if he was a direct disciple. Maybe he was, but anyway. He was an avadut, which we'll discuss later. Meaning he was, he didn't follow follow social conventions. He was above varnashram. He was above, due to his purity in Krishna consciousness, due to his devotion to Lord Nityananda. And so he'd walk around with a flute, and Krishnadas Kaviraj would have nightly kirtans at his home. And when Minaketana Ramdas, one day he showed up, and all the Vaishnavas offered him respect, as they should, being he's a Mahabhagavat. But this pujari who was there, he was doing the arti, Gurunarnava Mishra. He's a Mishra. Mishra is a Brahmana name, so he was a Smarta Brahmana. And so he's thinking, I'm worshiping the deity, and so, I don't need to offer respect to this devotee. And so Minaketana Ramdas understood that due to his smarta attachments, he wasn't respecting he wasn't expecting Nityananda Prabhu by not respecting Minaketana Ramdas. Seeing Nityananda Prabhu, he's not a bona fide guru or something like that. Therefore, Minaketana Ramdas, he's not worthy of being offered respect. So Minaketana Ramdas, in his ecstatic mood, he said, "Well, just see, there's just another Romaharshana Sutta not offering respects to Lord Balaram." There's a whole pastime in the Bhagavatam. So later that night, Krishnadas Kaviraj's brother, well, Krishnadas Kaviraj basically is making the point that one should offer respects to him because Lord Nityananda is he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's the most bona fide guru, he's Adi Guru. So later that same night, Krishnadas Kaviraj's own brother actually, he was expressing to Miniketan Ramdas how he accepts Lord Chaitanya. He accepts that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that he's bona fide. But he was expressing doubt in Lord Nityananda. And so this, of course, Miniketan Ramdas being very ecstatic and being a pure devotee of Lord Nityananda, he became very angry. This kind of ecstatic anger. And he broke his flute and he stormed away. And due to this offense, Krishnadas Kaviraj's brother actually fell down from his position as a devotee of Lord Chaitanya, due to not accepting the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And Krishnadas Kaviraj rebuked him very greatly, that this is half-hen logic, Ardha Kukura Nyaya, I think it's called in Bengali, that you're accepting Lord Chaitanya, but you're not accepting Lord Nityananda. It's just like a farmer. The hen is laying eggs, and you like the eggs, but you don't like that you have to feed the chicken, so therefore cut the chicken's head off. But then what happens when you cut the chicken's head off? You don't get the eggs anymore. So similarly, you can't have Lord Chaitanya without Lord Nityananda. They're one. Lord Nityananda is Lord Chaitanya's second body. Therefore, you have to have both. And so due to his rebuking his brother, Krishnadas Kaviraj received the mercy of Lord Nityananda, in that he appeared to him in a dream and he told him to go to Vrindavan. And this is how he ended up in Vrindavan, Krishnadas Kaviraj. So, Lord Nityananda, he's the unadulterated mercy of Krishna. Means there's Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, and Lord Nityananda came as the personification of his mercy. Therefore, like I said, he gives strength. If you pray to Lord Nityananda, he can give you strength to engage in the process of Krishna consciousness. And therefore, because he's just the personification of the absolute, raw, unadulterated mercy of Krishna, he appeared in this world as an avadut. An avadut is one who, like I said, is just above any kind of social convention, above varnashram, above just basic, even like normal human behavior, which is behavior which is conceivable by anybody who's not on that platform. So he appeared as an avadut, which was a little bit different to Lord Chaitanya. Of course, Lord Chaitanya, he maintained some kind of decorum of being a sannyasi, of being a Lord Chaitanya, he fit in a little more into human society, whereas Lord Nityananda he was Nityananda, he was unendingly, unlimitedly blissful. So, for instance, Lord Chaitanya was very strict with women. He was a sannyasi, so he was very strict in his association with women. But it's described that Lord Nityananda, he would be wandering around Narya, and he would go. He was a sannyasi as well, and he would go and he'd whisper into the women's ears. He'd say, "Will you marry me?" And so, like this, he was an avadut. He was the personification of, like Prabhupada said, chant and be happy. So this is personified in Lord Nityananda. And also, Prabhupada would say, chant, dance, and take prasadam. So Lord Nityananda was the absolute personification of this. There's one pastime. Lord Chaitanya had just taken sannyas at Katwa. And Nityananda Prabhu was there. And they were on their way to, I think they were going to go to Vrindavan. Yeah, they were going to go to Vrindavan. But Lord Nityananda, in order to bestow mercy onto the Bengal devotees, he tricked Lord Chaitanya and he took him a different route, which took him to Shantipur, the place of Advaitacharya. And so they got there. Well, they approached the bank of the Ganga, and Nityananda Prabhu told them that just see, we've reached Vrindavan. Here is the Yamuna River. And there were some cowherd boys nearby, and Nityananda Prabhu said, hey, if Lord Chaitanya asks, this is the Yamuna, okay? And they said, okay, fine. And so Lord Chaitanya, in his ecstatic mood, he started offering prayers to the Yamuna, and he was so delighted to be in Vrindavan. And all of a sudden, Advaita Acharya comes on a boat, to the bank where Lord Chaitanya is. And Lord Chaitanya asks him, he says, Advaita Prabhu, how did you know I was here in Vrindavan? So nice to see you. And Advaita Acharya says, just get in the boat, I'll explain everything to you. And so he gets in the boat, crosses the Ganga to the home of Advaita Acharya there in Shantipur. And he explains to Lord Chaitanya that actually we're in Shantipur, and you're at my home, and I wanted to see you, and everybody wants to see you, so here we are. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, just see, Lord Nityananda has cheated me. And he's brought me here to Shantipur when he told me that we were going to Vrindavan. So then they were there in the home of Advaita Acharya, and Malini Devi, Advaita Acharya's wife, had cooked this huge feast. I think that's Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's. Sita Devi. Sita Devi. I'm thinking, anyway, I'm confusing. She had cooked this huge feast. There's a number of feasts in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's wife also cooked a huge feast. Just like the whole chapter is just listing these preparations, I think Prabhupada says in one place that the devotee, the cooks in the Krishna consciousness movement should take note of these preparations. Oh, I see, yeah. So, and all these amazing preparations, all kinds of rice, all kinds of sweets and different sabjis, and beautiful feast, huge feast, inconceivably big. And so both Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda had these mountains of prasadam in front of them. There's a painting actually, it shows like literally just a big pile of prasadam in front of them. And Lord Chaitanya, he's saying to Advaita Acharya, he's saying, what am I supposed to do? I can't eat all of this. I'm a sannyasi, and it's not proper, and I'm not supposed to leave any remnants. So what am I supposed to do here? And Advaita Acharya says, oh Prabhu, you're the Supreme Lord. You can do anything you like. You can. This is not even a morsel for you. You can eat it. And all of a sudden, Nityananda Prabhu cuts in. He goes, well, I was fasting for 3 days, and I thought today was going to be a break fast, but here I am in the home of Advaita Acharya, and it's another fast day. And Advaita Acharya says, please, Nityananda Prabhu, you're a sannyasi. Sometimes you're accustomed to eating fruits and roots, and I'm just a poor brahmana. What can I do? This is all I can do. And Lord Nityananda says, hey, I'm in your home. You're supposed to feed me whatever I want. And then Advaita Acharya said, you know what? You're just a reject Paramahamsa. He said, you're just a reject Paramahamsa. You just took sannyasa so you can fill up your belly and go around all the householders' homes and eat as you like and sleep as you like, and you just do whatever you want. He says, you know what? You could eat 20 pounds of rice if you wanted, but I'm just a poor brahmana. He said, why don't you just take what I give you, okay? And Lord Nityananda said, you know what? I'm not taking any of it. And he pushes and he threw some rice on the ground in front of Advaita Acharya, and some of it stuck to his body. And then at this point, Advaita Acharya became ecstatic. He started dancing, jumping up and down. And he said, just see, now the real benefit of inviting you into my home I've achieved, because I've been touched by the remnants of your food. And so Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya, they had this relationship where they would fight. They would have mock fights after the cleansing of the Gundicha temple. Prasadam was being served out. All the devotees lined up in rows, and prasadam was being served out. And Lord Nityananda was sitting there, and Advaita Acharya was sitting there, and all of a sudden Advaita Acharya looks over and he goes, oh geez, here we go, sitting next to a unknown mendicant. Nobody knows, what his lineage is. Nobody knows who his parents are. Nobody knows what kind of family he comes from. Of course, Lord Nityananda is the Supreme Lord. This is all Lila. But he's saying, what will be my fate now? It's not good for a Brahmana householder to be sitting next to, a wild, unknown person like this. And then Lord Nityananda replied, he says, well, it beats sitting next to a Mayavadi. You're an impersonalist, you're a monist. I'm going to go to hell just by, of course, Advaitacharya he's Mahavishnu, he's Lord Shiva. There's a whole pastime where he feigned preaching Mayavad in order to have Lord Chaitanya bestow his mercy upon him by beating him. That's a whole other pastime. But anyway, he says, just by sitting next to you, I'm going to go to hell now. And it was this whole fight that broke out. So they'd have this kind of relationship. So, Lord Nityananda, he was, like I said, Nityananda, unendingly blissful, always immersed in chanting the holy name of Gaura. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that he would dance like a wrestler. He had this big, beautiful body, and he would roar in ecstasy, and he would dance. He was just like it's also described he was like a maddened elephant, or like a drunk elephant. He was completely off of the bodily, of course he's the Supreme Lord. He was completely off any kind of, platform of appearing to, what's the word? What's the word I'm thinking of? Not compromise, but I can't think of the word. Anyway, he didn't mix at all. He didn't fit at all into society, and he didn't make any show that he did. He was completely above any kind of like this. So Mahaprabhu sometimes had to reel him in. Like once he was with Vishnu Priya Devi at the house of Shachimata. This was before he took sannyas. And Lord Nityananda came there, and he was completely naked. And he was in this ecstatic mood. He came there and he was yelling out, "Where's Krishna?" He goes, "Where's Krishna? I'm trying to find Krishna." And Lord Nityananda, and Lord Chaitanya looks at him. He says, "Nityananda Prabhu, why are you naked?" And Nityananda Prabhu, he says, "I'm not going to eat anymore." And Lord Chaitanya asks him, "Well, why is it that every time I speak to you, you respond with something that's completely unrelated to what I said to you?" And Lord Nityananda said, "Okay, fine, I'll start eating again." And then Lord Chaitanya said, "Here." He gave him a kopin, and he gave him a little cloth. He said, "Just cover yourself, please." And so, like this, Lord Nityananda, he was completely off of any kind of pseudo-bodily platform. And Lord Chaitanya, fearing that maybe somebody would criticize him, what he did, he actually asked Lord Nityananda for his kopin, and he ripped it into pieces and he gave it to the various devotees that were there. And he said, "You keep this with you at all times and you'll be purified." Just to show the exalted nature of Lord Nityananda. So another thing it describes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat and other descriptions of the Gaura Lila, is that he had the strength of Lord Balaram. So he was simultaneously extremely ecstatic and erratic due to his ecstasy, but also he was extremely strong. It's described that he'd be wandering around Nadia, and he would see a bull, and he would get on top of the bull, and he would start shouting, "I'm Shiva, I'm him, I'm him, I'm Shiva," and he'd be riding this bull. Men of this world, like they have these rodeos nowadays, they can't even stay on the bull for 10 seconds, practically speaking. But Lord Nityananda, he'd ride these big, strong bulls. Sometimes you see them in Mayapur, or in Vrindavan too, I've seen. They have these like the big bulls with the big hump. They have this huge muscular body. They're scary. They're not like, of course they're Damvasis, but they're not like American bulls. They're like really huge, these big horns too. Muscular body. And so Lord Nityananda, he would ride them. Also, he would jump into the Ganga, and one of his pastimes is he would wrestle crocodiles, and he would force open their mouth so that they could chant Hare Krishna. and he would make them chant. So, yeah, like I said, he's the personification of chant and be happy. He was always in this ecstatic mood. And just like Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda was not an ordinary incarnation of Krishna, of the Supreme Lord. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkratam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Excuse me. So, Krishna, he comes to this world in order to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants. But Lord Nityananda, he came into this world just to make everybody happy. Sarve sukhino bhavantu. This was his mood, that he was extremely ecstatic, and he wanted to make everybody else ecstatic as well. And he did that just by his very existence, just by his, his laughing and his roaring and his dancing and his chanting, just by his very existence. He challenged the materialists, just like this song was saying. Let's see, where is it? The song was saying, Nitai na bolilo mukhe majilo shangshara shukhe vidyakule ki kori betar. Also, the first line is Shesha Mundana Hijar Britha Janma Galotar She Poshu Bora Durachar. So, there are people in this world, and even at the time of Lord Nityananda, who they had no idea of God. They had they had some idea of God maybe, but they had no idea that the point of human life is to worship God and to establish a relationship with God. And therefore, Mojilo Shangshara Shukhe, they were attracted by this samsara sukha, means the happiness of samsara, of the cycle of birth and death. And so people, they work so hard, for all these things. They, build up nations. They, or even on a more personal level, they build up knowledge, like this Vidyakule ki kori betar. They build up knowledge. They build up a family. And they work so hard to maintain their family and to get knowledge, and they're working jobs, all these things, advancement of society. But what does Lord Nityananda do? He laughs. He just laughs in their face, because all of these things are nothing to him. His life is Lord Chaitanya. His life is Gaura. And so all of these things, it's just, it's nothing. It's Brita, it's useless. It's a waste of time. And so, therefore, his existence is just his very presence in the world is a challenge to this materialistic way of life, because it makes material life look so useless and stupid. Even now, we have people in the society, and they're working very hard for whatever happiness they have. And when they see the devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement, they think, all right, like I think Balaram Prabhu had an experience. It was you and Jamal were at the post office. Balaram Prabhu and Jamal, for those who know him, were at the post office. And this lady saw them there, and she said, all right, guys, enough is enough. It's time to get a job. It's time to grow up, time to get over this whole thing. So they think that the devotees are just, it's some kind of brainwashing. It's some kind of nonsense. It's the opium of the people. Because there's no concept in their head that there can be any happiness outside of working like a hog, a dog, or a camel, or an ass for miserable happiness. And so the devotees of Lord Nityananda in this Krishna consciousness movement, they should follow in his footsteps in this way. Their very existence should be a challenge to the materialistic way of life. Their very existence should be a hearty laugh in the face of the materialists. We're not looking to compromise. We're not looking to meet them on their level, so to speak. Of course, preaching is there, but the devotees chant and dance and take prasadam, and they're always jolly, Srila Prabhupada says. The devotees always are jolly. Why? Because they don't have to worry about all these things. They don't have to worry about working like an ass. They don't have to worry about maintaining a family that's going to die. They don't have to worry about, I mean, of course, they do that, but they do that in Krishna consciousness, so it's different. But they don't have to worry about all these different things, and therefore they're always jolly. They're always, they're not bogged down by the miseries of this world. And so Lord Nityananda, he exemplified this. He exemplified this jolliness. He was very jolly and very jokesome. But at the same time, he had a very serious mission. This paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chadushkritam was also his mission. But he did that through the medium of being extremely ecstatic all the time. And so this is what he did. He gave prema even to those who didn't want it. Even those who didn't deserve it, who didn't even want it, didn't ask for it. He completely, unrestrictedly, indiscriminately gave out Krishna prema. And of course, the very famous example is the pastime of Jagai and Madhai. Jagai and Madhai they were born in Brahmana families. They were brothers. They were born in the same Brahmana family. And eventually they, somehow or other, due to bad association, they became extremely sinful. They were murderers even. They were meat eaters, drunkards. Actually, I'm not sure that they were meat eaters, but anyway, they were drunkards and they were women hunters. And they actually said that they studied all of the scriptures, the Vedic literatures, just so that they could find all of the different sinful activities so that they could try and perform all of them. They were that sinful. And they were causing so much havoc there in Navadvip that Lord Nityananda, who, by the way, he was the first Sankirtan devotee. He was the first appointed Sankirtan devotee in Lord Chaitanya's mission. Lord Chaitanya told him, Bolo Krishna, or tell everybody, Bolo Krishna, Bhajra Krishna, Kora Krishna Shiksha. Tell everybody to chant Krishna's name, tell everybody to worship Krishna, and to follow his instructions. And Lord Nityananda, he kind of changed it. He said, Bolo Gauranga, Bhaja Gauranga, Kora Gauranga Shiksha. Everybody worship Gauranga. That's what that was his mood. And so he would go out with Haridas Thakur, and they would get into a lot of trouble together because of Lord Nityananda, because he was so ecstatic. He would approach everybody and anybody, to distribute this Gaura Prem to them. And so Nityananda Prabhu told Haridas Thakur, he said, if we could deliver those two men, then Lord Chaitanya's glories would be absolutely undebatable. Nobody would be able to question that Lord Chaitanya is in fact the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Lord Nityananda, one day, he went to them and he said, Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. And in their drunken stupor, Jagai and Madhai, they chased him away. Said, get out of here, like this. And so they were, of course, they wanted to kill them. That was their intention. They chased them away to try to kill them. But eventually they got away. And Haridas Thakur said, one of these days, Nityananda Prabhu, you're going to kill us. And so what did Nityananda Prabhu do? He tried again. He went to them and he said, Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. When are you going to surrender? And so what happened is that, and I always forget, Madhai threw the pot. Madhai got a clay pot and he threw it at Lord Nityananda's head. And it sliced his head open and he was bleeding. It's described. He looked very beautiful, bleeding like that. And at that moment, Lord Chaitanya came in this mood of paritranaya sadhanam, but particularly vinashaya chadushkritam. And he called for his Sudarshan Chakra, and he was about to, blow them to smithereens. And so angry, this transcendental anger. But what happened is that Madai was going to throw another piece, and Jagai stopped him. He had some change of heart. He realized that this is actually a saintly person. We shouldn't do this. And so Lord Nityananda, he told this to Lord Chaitanya. He said, this isn't why you've come. You haven't come to kill the demons. You've come to deliver them. This Jagai, he stopped Madai from throwing the pot again. Therefore, he deserves your mercy. So please, give him your mercy. And upon hearing this, Lord Chaitanya became so pleased that he actually embraced Jagai. And at that moment, Jagai became a pure devotee of Krishna by the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And then Madai also later was delivered. And they're still acknowledged as pure devotees. Their samadhi is there. I'm forgetting where it is. It's not in Vrindavan, but it's somewhere in Bengal. Their samadhis are there. So this is the mercy of Lord Nityananda. That he's even more merciful than Lord Chaitanya. There's another pastime that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they were on their way to Radhadesh. But on the way, they stopped in this village of Lalitapur. And when they were there was this sannyasi who came and he saw Lord Chaitanya and he said, "Oh, please come to my home." And, they were like, okay, sannyasi, home, okay. But they thought, okay, anyway, we'll go. And Lord Nityananda knew what was going on. But Lord Chaitanya said, okay, I guess we'll go. So anyway, they went and they were talking. And this sannyasi, he blessed Lord Chaitanya. He said, he was a sannyasi. He blessed Lord Chaitanya. He said, may you have great wealth, may you have, followers and good health and all these things. And Lord Chaitanya said, what's the use of all these things? You should bless me that I become a pure devotee of Lord Vishnu. And this sannyasi was saying, well, anyway, what's the value of being a pure devotee of Lord Vishnu if you have no money to eat? So, you shouldn't reject my blessing. It's not very good etiquette. They were arguing like this. And in the meantime, the sannyasi's wife came out, and she was given the eyes to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, she was attracted to them. And this sannyasi, he saw his wife, and he said, go back, to the other room. What are you doing here? Don't disturb our guests. And so she went back to the other room. And then anyway, they sat down and they were going to have prasadam. And the sannyasi, he asked Lord Chaitanya, he said, would you like some ananda? Would you like some ananda? And Lord Chaitanya's thinking, ananda, what does he mean? Ananda, would I like some bliss? And Lord Nityananda leans over and he whispers to him, he's talking about wine. And as soon as Lord Chaitanya heard this, he leapt out of his seat and he ran to the bank of the Ganga, and he jumped in. And in the meanwhile, Lord Nityananda was running behind him laughing. So this is Lord Nityananda's mood. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the unadulterated form of His mercy. He gives strength by which we can engage in the process of devotional service. And He gives the example that devotees everywhere should follow. That we should simply be concerned with chanting, dancing, taking prasadam, preaching Krishna consciousness, and being ecstatic. Being so ecstatic that it ruins the false prestige of the materialists and attracts them to engage in the process of Krishna consciousness. So it's 8:25. I guess we can stop for questions and answers. Dravida Prabhu surely has a very ecstatic contribution.
I remember once I went to the Ratha Yatra. It was about 2 hours away from Alachua, and it was a long drive. And on the way back, I read this whole pastime of Lord Nityananda from the latter part of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And it's when he was with Lord Chaitanya in Puri. And Lord Chaitanya said, you can't just stay here with me, you have to preach in Bengal. And he didn't want to go. He said, you have to, that's what, I can't go because my mother told me to stay here. So I said, okay. So he left and he had his own crew, he has his own Gopals, his intimate associates who went. And they started wandering, just chanting. They didn't ask directions or anything. And they would get way off course. They said, do you know where Bengal, how we can get to Bengal? So you went way off. You go back 20 miles. And you go to. So eventually they're just chanting. So they came to a village, because you talked about the strength, about how he had incredible strength. So I'm sitting in the car reading this, and I'm going nuts. And he said, yes, and they would just do this all this chanting in this village, and soon everybody was chanting, and they were all so ecstatic. And people started pulling out trees from the ground, and children were doing that, and they were jumping up into the trees and dancing in the trees and everything, and he was empowering everyone to do like that. And eventually they wandered back, and they eventually got to Bengal, and he started to preach, and that's when you get the festival with Raghunath Das and all this.
Panihati.
So I thought I'd mention that, the strength.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, I think it's described also one time at Panihati they had a 3-month-long kirtan. 3 months straight. It means no breaks. So Lord Nityananda, another display of his dancing potency, he was dancing for 3 months straight, nonstop. So, yeah, he wasn't alone. Yeah, of course he was empowering all these other devotees also to do that. Is there any other contributions, questions also?
Now, that pastime with Jagai and Madai, if Lord Chaitanya actually killed Madai, would that be considered a mercy or a curse?
Yeah, definitely mercy. Everything Krishna does is mercy. So, because just like, Krishna killed so many demons, but really it was mercy to them. It was mercy. They achieved a position. Some of them merged into the Brahmajyoti. Some of them even, it's described that they attained Sarupya Mukti. Of course, Putana, she went straight back to Godhead. So, is there? Yeah.
The encounter with Jagai Madai. So the first time, he said, Bolo Krishna, Bolo Krishna, Krishna, and they both became very angry. You said they chased him away, but they actually chased after them. They were running, and Haridas was berating Nityananda. I knew that I would get killed, because he was an older gentleman, he's probably trying to get away. But they were so drunk that eventually they couldn't, they fell down. They started fighting with each other, And when the thing happened with Madai, I think the news got back to Lord Chaitanya, then he came. And he invoked the disc, and he's coming like that, So there was a little delay there, but yeah, and he was bleeding.
Question. Thank you. That was a wonderful class. You really animated those stories. That was a nice flow. You honored this day very nicely. Good kickoff to a wonderful festival. Haribol. So what happened to those 2 huge plates of prasadam?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think they ate it. Yeah. Well, yeah. Lord Chaitanya at one point, he ate the plate, and he was described. He was sitting back, and he was saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so full. I just can't. I'm like inconceivably full right now." And Lord Nityananda said, "Not even half my belly's filled."
Wow.
He said, "You haven't even given me a morsel." And so, yeah, this is Lord Nityananda's
That's good.
Yeah, I know you eat 54 times a day in Puris. Oh, this is just a little morsel for you.
Yeah.
They're going to open the curtain.
Yeah.
Giant. So anyone listening, join us tonight for a mountain plate of prasadam. Haribol.
Nityananda Prabhu ki jai.